with my old friend Godfrey Townsend, and we're a minute late, 2 minutes late, because we've been shooting the shit and catching up on 40 years of stuff.
Yeah.
Godfrey, it's so good to see you. Thank you for doing
Same,
this.
same here. Yeah. It's been a while. Been a bit, right?
It's been a bit, but I think I FaceTimed you from my manicurist like a month ago. And it was the first time I had seen you in a million years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
But
when did you move out to the West Coast? How long ago was it?
I started being bi-coastal in like right after 9/11. And that's when you were doing all those things. You were doing Entwistle. You were doing everything back then. Todd Rundgren, you were doing everything. And I don't know if you ever met Gabe, if you ever met my husband, who Gabe Abelson, comedian who was writing for Letterman, and then
I think I met him at Jimmy's Comedy Alley that we were just
there
talking.
you exactly. That's why I was at Jimmy's Comedy Alley. That's
Exactly.
how we met there.
Exactly. Yeah, because we opened up for Andrew Dice Clay there one night.
I remember that night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Andrew was a regular there. So for those of you out there, Godfrey, would you do something for me so I can take us live on all the platforms? We are live, but I'm gonna put a little reminder to everybody with the link now that we have a live link. Would you
Yeah.
play something for us so I have a minute to do that?
Oh, all right. You want me to play electric guitar or something, or?
I want you to, I was just telling Godfrey before we came live that he absolutely, if you guys have not seen, and I'm going to put the link up in the liner notes, Godfrey did Woodstock 1999 with John Entwistle. And I'll tell you, if you close your eyes, it's Daltrey.
Yeah.
It's freaky. And you guys know how much I love The Who and have gone to see them so many times because our good friend Lauren Gold is in there. But
Yeah.
Godfrey just blew my mind.
And I'll do this other
Okay,
thing.
do something, and then I'm going to be right back.
We'll be fighting in the streets with the children at our feet, and the ballrooms that we worshipped will be gone. Then who spurred us on? In judgment of our own. They decide, and the shotgun sings the song. If I had a new constitution, think about for the new revolution. Smile and grin, change all around. I pick up my guitar and play, just like yesterday. Get on my knees and I'm praying. Get fooled again. Don't get fooled again. Okay, that's enough for now. But anyway, that's a taste of the Who stuff, right? So I do that in my acoustic show at the end.
It's unbelievable. I have to there's a set. Oops, what did I just do? I just took my picture away. There's a
Yeah.
setting on Zoom so that it allows you to play and sound without sounding. There's a setting, and I don't know what it
Yeah,
is. Do you know what it is?
it compresses because it's set for
Uh,
like other than music or background noise or something like that.
I'm trying to figure out.
It
Okay,
was
let me see.
happening. I was doing a lesson with somebody, and it was just sounding all garbled and muffled and whatever. What he was.
Yeah, it wasn't just, I mean, you sounded amazing, but the output, I know there's like special audio. Voices will
Yeah.
sound like they're coming from each hearing incoming. There's a setting here. What is it? Noise removal, no. Background noise suppression. No, we don't want to do that.
No, but I think that that's what it is when you have that.
Can I remove the noise removal? Original sound for
If you take
musicians.
that off.
Ah, okay, I just did original sound for musicians. Let's see
So
for a second if that's going to make it better because I want you to play more.
test it again.
It's sing for a second.
We'll be fighting in the streets.
That's not it.
Children at our feet. So it's
Noise removal. No, that's what it was on. That's not right. Live performance audio. There it is. Try it now.
fighting in the streets. With the children at our feet. And the morals that worshipped will be gone.
Okay, that's better. So before you play another song, remind me to put back live performance audio.
Okay.
And we'll make sure that that's happening. Because I
Yeah.
think if I have that on all the time, it's not going to be good. This is such a finicky little thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I used to do a lot of live streams from my house, like Live at the Bunker, I used to call it, and during the pandemic especially. And I would spend hours getting the room to sound great and everything, and then when I would listen to the playbacks, it would sound horrible, and I'd go, I don't want to, I don't want to.
I know. I actually got. It took a lot of fooling around until I figured things out. And now I think we're getting some feedback, and I'm wondering why.
Your speakers, maybe your playback, or are you listening in your ears?
I'm listening in my ears. Now I think maybe I'm getting something. I don't know what. And you know what? They've got it now, so they won't show me the comments on there. I have to look on my phone. Hi, Andrew, to see who's talking and what they're saying. But we'll get over that. Godfrey, there's so many things that I don't know that I want to know, because I did watch a bunch of interviews of you, and a lot of things get repeated, and then there's some guitar geeks and they want to talk about that. But so I know you grew up in Queens. I went to high school in Queens. You were in Ridgewood? Were you in Ridgewood?
In Ridgewood, yeah. In Ridgewood, which is, right next to Bushwick, and then you've got Glendale and Forest Hills, and so going up to Queens. So Ridgewood is right Brooklyn-Queens border.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in Middle Village, Queens, Christ the King High School.
Christ the King.
Yeah.
I went to Newtown in Elmhurst, but I lived on the border of Corona and Forest Hills.
Yeah.
And but your mother, very interesting accent, from Malta.
Malta, yeah, the island of Malta.
The island of Malta, and she was an opera singer and played keyboard. What brought her to?
She played piano.
Piano.
And she sang in the chorus of the opera.
Okay, that's singing in the opera. In my book.
Her brothers were tenors, operatic tenors. Both of her brothers, or two of her brothers. She had three brothers, but two of them were opera singers. One of them is a famous opera singer in Malta. There's a street named after him and everything. She came here basically, as young kids, 25 years old or whatever she was at the time, thinking that she's going to find money in the streets of America, and she met my dad here, who was a singer as well, trying to aspire to be an opera singer.
And what kind of my father was a crooner, was a jazz singer. What kind of singing did your father do?
He was an opera singer. He sang some of the popular music at the time, because he was an Irish tenor. He was born in England but raised in Ireland, and he was kind of had an Irish tenor voice, but a dramatic tenor, not a lyrical tenor. So he sang opera, and he was learning opera, and he was coming here to try to get a break or whatever, and she saw his sheet music. She used to work in the automat. Remember the automat?
Oh God, yeah! You put the money in and you open the
and you get a little piece of pie. And so she worked there and saw him there and said, sheet music. Are you a singer? Yes. What do you sing? Oh, I sing opera. Oh, my brothers sing opera. Boom. The rest is history. And that's how they met over here in New York City. So many years. Yeah.
And so, did either of them end up? Well, she ended up in the court.
No, I mean, basically,
he had a lot of bad breaks, you know what I mean? Like he saved up all his money from his job at the AMP or wherever he was working, and to make a demo, and then he met this guy that was going to get his demo to the right people, and then the guy got drunk and lost it, you know, and you know, back then you had one copy of like an acetate of something, and
Sure.
so and for years he did different things. He sang for different opera houses. There was one that was right next to Gildersleeve's on the Bowery. I forget what they were called, Amato maybe, Opera House.
Uh-huh.
Or something. And he sang at the World's Fair, things like that. So he continued to do that, but he worked a day job because now he's married and has a kid and all that and whatever. So.
And how about your mother? Did she stay performing or?
No, no, no. I mean, she didn't do that from the very beginning. I mean, we have a piano in the house, and we always entertained. When we had get-togethers for holidays and stuff, everybody would come over, and everyone would take turns singing and playing the piano, and we made our own entertainment. There certainly wasn't a football game on the TV. You know what I mean? So it was just us making our own entertainment. So.
And so at what point, so were you always musical? Were you like singing when you were 2? And
Yeah,
did you
so
sit down at the piano and bang when you were a little kid?
my dad actually taught me a couple of operatic arias when I was 5 and 6 years old.
What?
Yeah, and when my mother took me to Malta for the first time, my uncles all heard that I was singing opera, and the first thing they did was put me up on a chair and make me sing, an aria from Aida or something, or whatever. And
No, wait,
and
is Malta's not part of Sicily. Is
no,
Malta?
you know what? It's 60 miles south of Sicily. As a matter of fact, the last time I went to visit, we took a ferry to Sicily for the day and
Which
came
we're gonna go to Sicily. So what do they speak in Malta?
Maltese. It's another language.
Is
That's
is it based in Italian? No.
no,
She
it almost
sounded more German when I heard her accent.
it almost sounds like Egyptian or
Oh,
that like Middle Eastern kind of sounding. There's a lot of X's in the words and
I see.
that kind of talking. So not a Romance language, which Italian and Spanish and plenty of other languages like that have very similar words, right?
Is she
All
Middle Eastern? Is it considered a
no, no,
Middle
no,
Eastern?
I mean, they were actually a British colony at one point. They were British rule until like 1964 or something
Oh,
like that.
wow.
Yeah. So they learned English in school, and they
Uh-huh.
learned the proper, King's
Right.
English, whatever you want to call it. So everyone talks like that with Maltese accents, but they aluminium, and they say words like that, like they say it the British way or whatever, and you just go, what? You mean aluminum? So yeah,
So did you speak Maltese in your home?
I heard a lot of it because my mother only spoke it on the phone with friends, or if friends were visiting or whatever. She had a lot of Maltese friends here, and I picked up all the the major words that you needed to understand what the conversation gist was, and all the curse words, of course, I learned first. 'Cause
Of course.
I said to my uncles when I went to Malta at 5 years old, I told them all the curses, and he got mad at my mother about it. That's what you teach him, all the curse words, whatever. So it was, I would hear her on the phone talking, but we didn't speak Maltese in the house because my dad was English, born in England, raised in Ireland, so he spoke English. He sang in all these different languages, having sung opera. He sang in German, French, Italian, and he was very into like diction, proper
Nice.
proper pronunciations of things and stuff like that. Yeah.
I just, by the way, while we're talking, I went over to ChatGPT to find out the correct settings so that you can play properly. And it's original music original sound for musicians. Enable it. Okay, I did. So we'll see if it works when
Yeah, sure.
when we come back to it. So okay, so your dad taught you a couple of arias, pretty outrageous. You weren't reading music, I assume, at that point.
No, no. When I went over to Malta with my mother, I went. My uncle had a piano, in the house there, and I would sit there and just, just pick out melodies myself on the
And
piano.
how old are you when you're doing this?
I was 5.5 going on 6,
Wow.
and he said to my mother, he's got musical talent, he's got an ear that he's playing melodies, just picking them out by himself and playing. Get a piano for him when you get back to the States, and get a piano in the house because
Wow.
and she did, and my son is the same way. My son never had a lesson, and he sits and plays and sings and never had.
Since how old? When did he start doing it?
He started doing it very early on, like same age, about 5, 6 years old. He would always go, "Dad, can I go on your computer?" And I had it set up to have a MIDI synthesizer, and he would find the exact sound in the synthesizer and go, "Dad, this is the thing from Mortal Kombat," and play like the theme song to one of his video games, note for note, with the exact sound that they're using in the video game.
And was that your mother's gift? Could she do that at the piano?
She was able to sit and play the piano, and she sang nicely. She wasn't a professional singer, but she could play the piano. Took lessons for a few years as a kid. Everyone back in the old day learned something. They were taught something. They either
Clarinet.
Right, they had to learn something. And I took piano lessons first. I started.
Okay, so when did you start taking piano lessons?
9 years old. 9 years old, I started taking piano lessons, and I took piano lessons for 2 years.
And are you doing the same dorky things that everyone else is doing when they're taking piano lessons?
Right. I'm there practicing piano while all my friends are out playing, stickball on the block, and no. Finish your piano first, and then you can go do that or whatever. And then, of course, the Beatles came around, and everybody wanted to play guitar, and my mother wouldn't. She was like, "Yeah, no, that's a dime a dozen." She said, "Guitar players are a dime a dozen. You should be a concert pianist." And I was like,
Wow.
"Imagine if I would have gone for that. How hard would that be to get anywhere doing?"
Wow. So did you play every day? Was she a taskmaster?
Yeah, I had to practice every day, and I had a lesson once a week. And I asked her, "Can I take guitar lessons?" And she said, "If you do well with your piano, I'll let you take guitar lessons." And it was like $3 for a half-hour lesson at the time. But that was a lot of money back in
It
the
was.
early 60s, So now you want to take guitar and piano lessons. Okay. And luckily I went, and I hated it, because it was an old Italian guy, trying to teach me, Mary Had a Little Lamb or something. And it wasn't the Stevie Ray Vaughan one. It was, and I just said, "You know what? I'll just do it myself." And my friend's father was in a wedding band, and he had what's called a fake book that has all the sheet music to all the popular songs, so that wedding musicians can just go
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
and fake their way through the song, So that's how I learned, really, by just playing by ear and looking at the chord, learning all the chords and the chord charts that are in the fake book on the music, and then just listening to what they're playing. I was able to pick out the lead parts and stuff like that. So I became the lead guitarist in the bands, and I didn't even know what I was doing yet, So
Wow.
yeah, and it's all by ear. I mean, really,
But you read music.
yeah, I can read music, and I have years of theory behind me that I don't really use much. As the musical director, you have to pull out harmony vocals for the band and go, "Okay, you guys take this part, you guys take that part," and they're okay. "Oh, that sounds a little, it's right, but the blend is wrong. So why don't we swap parts?" And then, "Oh, that's a better blend."
And where did you learn this, Godfrey?
I was asked to join a band after a producer saw me out in Laughlin with Mitch Weissman in '95. Years later, he was managing a doo-wop band, who you might even have heard of them, Kenny Vance and the Planetones.
Sure.
So their guitar player had left abruptly, so it must have been a bad scene. And this guy called me and said, "Could you fill in?" And I went, "I don't know anything about that music. I know nothing about that music." And he goes, just do it. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. And I was like, okay. And so I learned their whole show, and I played with them for 3 years. Played with them for 3 years. And I would
But
go
you
to
learned a lot doing that?
Yeah, I would go to the vocal rehearsals. We would rehearse at this guy Kenny's house. He lived in Rockaway, and we would go to his house and rehearse. And I would watch them getting all the harmony parts and switching parts, and all that harmony is amazing. I mean, all these guys were great singers in their own right. And then one of them left, and he was afraid to fly, and he left the tour. So I had to learn all his vocal parts as well then. And so I got heavily into like listening to vocals a lot. And you develop your ear, like anything you do, like a muscle,
But you didn't go to school for it.
No.
And how about your son?
My son never had a lesson, and like I said, he used to sit at my synthesizer and bang out Mortal Kombat and stuff like that, and then just started playing guitar. I went to try to teach him, and he was just still in that video game world. Super Mario Brothers is waiting for me. I got to get off. And I just went, you know what? I'm not going to teach you if you don't want to learn. You'll come to me. You'll beg me to teach you, and then I'll maybe teach you. Otherwise, you're on your own. And years later, he helped me load into a gig that I was doing a gig locally. And he picks up one of my guitars after we finish setting up, and he starts playing it and going, "Hey, Dad, this is that thing from Joe Satriani or whatever." And he starts playing it, and I go, "Oh yeah, I know that song." And then I go, "Wait a minute, since when do you play the guitar?" And he went, "Well, I just used to mess around with yours at home all the time and whatever, and I taught myself." So he became a bass player, and he came out on tour with us a couple of times actually, and played. Backed up Rick Derringer, Mark Farner, Felix Cavalieri, Gary Wright.
Oh my God.
Dave Mason. All these people he backed up on tour. And then he left after a couple of years because he went, that's your thing. And everybody just kind of likes me because I'm your son and everything. And I went, no, dude, they like you because you're good at what you do. You sing good, you play good, and you're not a pain in the ass.
Wow. By the way, Tony Vincent just asked if you were playing with the Planetones when Johnny Gale was in the band. I love Johnny Gale. Oh my God, I love Johnny Gale. Good question, Tony.
Yeah, at one point, Kenny loved us both so much that he would have both of us on the gig.
Wow.
He paid to have two guitar players on the gig, and me and Johnny would just have a blast. I mean, that guy is so hysterical.
He is hysterical.
I had a phone conversation with him about 6 months ago, and I was just rolling on the floor, and he was just talking seriously. He wasn't even trying to be funny.
His accent alone makes me laugh. And I'm from the Bronx originally. So
and he's that guy. That's his forte, is that doo-wop stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's him. I mean, the way I get into the Clapton and all that British rock guitar, his forte is all that stuff. And so he's just always in the studio doing something with somebody. And he still works with Kenny Vance. He still goes out with Kenny.
That's how I heard of Kenny Vance, of course. I didn't put it together. Yeah. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah.
So, all right, Godfrey. So you just have this ear. How do you segue? I know you had a few bands in Ridgewood. How did you segue to start gigging? And at what point does school become not so important and rock and roll take over?
Yeah, right before I graduated high school, I put together a band of guys to start writing our own original material. And we were doing that, and there was a famous club on Queens Boulevard that you might remember called the Coventry, where Kiss got their start, and Billy Squire used to play there with Piper, and the New York Dolls, and all these different bands came out of there. Mm-hmm. And we started writing and writing these songs and rehearsing them. And when I got out of high school, I handed my diploma to my parents, and I went, okay, here it is. You wanted it. Here it is. I'm going to go play music now with my band, and I got a job as a messenger, in the World Trade Center or something, and worked with my band, and at night.
Did your parents give you a hard time about that?
A bit, I had a job, so they couldn't say nothing about that, right? They were very supportive of my music over the years. You know what I mean? Kind of let me do what I wanted to do, and just we started playing the Coventry, and then all of a sudden we heard about the city, and all the people that hang out at Max's Kansas City come to the Coventry when they're in Queens, and started meeting all these people, all these players and stuff like that. Johnny Thunders used my Marshall half stack at Coventry when he played there with his own band. Heartbreakers were they called, right? Remember? Johnny Thunder and the Heartbreakers, they were called, before Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Sure.
And Gene Simmons came to see us one night, and he wanted to talk to the leader of the band. Who's the leader of the band? I want to talk to him. And he gave me this whole speech about what I got to do. You got to dress like a star. You got to do this. You got to have a gimmick. You got to have a show.
You got to have a gimmick.
And I'm like 17 years old, and I'm just a wise ass kid. What do you know? Whatever. But we still got a demo together and presented it to him, and obviously they passed on us because they didn't think it was good enough or whatever, and we just continued to keep trying to do stuff for another 5 or more years as in different bands. Like I said, Alan Waters' band, another guy named Gary Shan we worked with writing and recording, and we had Bill O'Coin, who managed Kiss and Billy Idol. He was handling us, and all this kind of stuff was going on, and we were playing tracks and places like that uptown, or showcasing for record company people. And then we got like a spec deal with some guys that were owned Electric Lady Studios, and we were recording in there while the Stones were in there doing an Emotional Rescue album. And it was a spec deal, so we weren't paying. They were fronting us the time because they had a production company in Electric Lady Studios. They formed their own production company, and it was sign bands and record them there and try to get them. So every time the Stones would come in to do listen to some playbacks of some stuff, they'd push us out. You're out. You come back in a week or two. So nothing ever got far. You know what I mean? So then I just started playing. Got married, had kids, worked a job.
You're still what kind of job are you working now? You still a messenger?
No, right now. No. You mean back then when that was happening? I did a little bit of everything. Postman for a while. I did all kinds of stuff. UPS, and then
everything where you worked during the day and had your nights free. Right?
Yeah. And then I did deliver. I delivered appliances for an appliance store. So I had my own band.
I heard you tell a funny story that when you were playing with John Entwistle, what did you do in between the break?
Right. So he had to run out because the Who wanted to go out and do the Quadrophenia tour. And so we had to postpone. We were going to finish off this first tour. We did January up until like March or whatever, or April. And then we were going to take a break, and then we were going to go out for the summer with John. But then the Who wanted to go out and do Quadrophenia. So John kind of put us all on a bit of a retainer. And I was delivering refrigerators and air conditioners that summer. I mean,
he's playing with the Who. You're delivering.
And I went back and told him when we reconvened in the fall, I said, what I was doing all summer while you were busy doing your thing, I was delivering refrigerators. And he went, no. And I went, next time I'll take some video.
We do what we have to do. But all right, wait, we jumped way ahead because there's a lot that happened between Queens and John Entwistle. So how did you segue from those Queens clubs? Yeah.
So what we did was we had this original band called Alexis, and we played the Coventry, and we were 4 pieces. We were two guitars, bass, and drums. And we kind of split up with the other guitar player. He wanted to do his own thing and go another direction or whatever. So then we became like a power trio. and we just played all the local bars that there were all over Queens and Brooklyn and whatever. And we played every weekend. We had our own little rehearsal studio, and we just lived off of whatever we could live off of.
And who's in your power trio at this time?
It was a drummer named Vinny Signorelli, who later on wound up in oh God, what was the people that he worked with? The Dots. Remember the Dots? Jimmy Quid and guys like that. He was in the Dots for a while. He was in oh God, there's another band. I mean, we even went to Germany. Turbo Hydramatics, there was another band he was in. Anyway, he went into that scene. The independent band kind of thing. And the bass player, Charlie Gozer, he kind of, everybody kind of dropped out little by little. They found girls.
Except you.
Yeah, and then they disappeared. Or some people went into the wedding band circuit where you'd make enough
money
on the weddings on the weekend that people work all week to make that kind of money.
Right.
But they got lost in the sauce of that then, you know what I mean? Because then they didn't have to try anymore. They were making tons of money playing on the weekends. And you saw a lot of those guys go away, and so...
So how did you stick with it, Godfrey? What did you do?
I actually didn't. I mean, I for at least 15 years, I did the appliance delivery thing, had a couple of kids, raised them, whatever. And then at one point, I lost that job at Christmas because the place I worked for got bought out by another company that brought in their own truckers. So Christmas 1988, I was unemployed. And a friend of mine calls me up and says, hey, I play the Irish bar circuit all over the tri-state area with my band, and I need a guitar player. And
this is why I don't know you from the mid '80s, because you weren't on the scene then. That's why I met you later.
I was playing places like O'Flanagan's on First Avenue and 65th.
Sure.
Places like that, or up in the Bronx on oh God, I forget the name of the place now. Blackthorn and all these kind of places like that were up there, and the Irish bars that were all over in Woodside and Sunnyside and places like that. We were playing 6-7 nights a week.
Wow.
And when I first went to the guy, I went, I don't know your songs, I don't know your set lists and stuff. And he goes, don't worry about it, just show up. I'll call out the song, I'll tell you what key. By the second chorus, you'll have it down, and that's how I just went in there and learned, and quickly learned all the stuff. And we played 6-7 nights a week. We got paid like $100 each a night, which was big money for 1988 to make $600-700 cash a week.
Right.
I was able to raise my kids in the daytime.
Right.
So perfect. So then I started coming to the city and going to True Blue and China Club and places like that, And my wife at the time would say, you're out every night playing music. And I'm like, yeah, but that's work. Now I want to go jam at the China Club, or whatever. So, and after a day's work, you figure you just want to sit on the couch and watch TV and veg. I would take a shower and drive into Manhattan, or take the train from Canarsie into Manhattan and go jam, or,
now, all those years, sorry to interrupt, all those years that you weren't playing, that you were raising your kids and doing the appliances, you were still playing all the time, weren't you?
Yeah, once in a while on a weekend or something.
Oh, okay, I don't mean playing out. I mean, you were playing in your house. You were
keeping... Yeah. I had a little studio set up. I was recording. I was writing music. I was recording stuff. I was always learning songs that I wanted to learn, but just stuff that I liked. I just had...
Right.
So I always kept, I guess, your chops up or whatever.
Right.
And always had, maybe I had 2 or 3 guitars in the house or whatever, and a keyboard and a computer that I could, record and stuff with or whatever, So yeah, I was always playing, Yeah.
So okay, so you're coming down to the city and you're going to all these clubs late at night and doing all of that.
Yeah.
How does the magic start to happen? Is it because you're making connections? Is it
Yeah, you know what? You know how it was, at the China Club especially. It's like, oh, dude is here from whatever band, and he wants to do this song. Anybody know this song? Yeah, I know it, And all right, let's get him up. And I would play the song fine with the guy or whatever. And after that happens enough times, the people who were running the jams or whatever, plus I was buddies with Mitch Weissman, and the people who were running the jams go, hey, this guy knows a lot of songs.
I'm sure Bobby Held was, when I was doing it, was calling you up a lot. Yeah.
Bobby Held was there. Steve Conti was there.
Steve Conti.
Adam Baum, remember him?
Oh my God, of course. And Steve Luongo was there, and Mark Hitt was there, and all these people.
Right. So
Steve Murphy.
I brought them. Somehow or other, Danny or whoever it was, Mike or whatever, asked me to start running the jam.
After I went to have a baby.
They'd always come to the stage and go, such and such is here. Get him up to play. Get him up to play. And I'd have to bring him up to play. Oh, Nuno Betancourt is here, or Steve Lukather is here, or this guy's here, or that guy's here. Get him up to play. Get him up to play. And I wound up jamming with all these different people. And then Steve Luongo had toured with John Entwistle, with Rat Race Choir, with his band. Right. They backed up John Entwistle on a tour, and once he
and
heard,
Mark Hitt was playing guitar at that time, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But once he heard me play, because he filled in on a gig, it's so weird the way it happened too. Steve Murphy was in my band, and we were playing all these bars in the neighborhood, and Steve Murphy was going out to L.A. to audition for John Entwistle, who was putting a band together with Skunk Baxter in L.A. So Steve Murphy was going to be missing in action for a weekend or so. And so I said to Bobby Held, what are we going to do about these gigs? We got to get a drummer. Be great if we can get a guy who can sing Zeppelin. And he said, Steve Longo. And I go, really? From Rat Race? He would play with us? Sure. And he came down to play with us. And he snatched me away from that situation. So now I had two bands going on with Steve Longo and Mark Clark on bass, and another band with Steve Murphy and Bobby Held on bass. And
wow,
we were just juggling and shuffling gigs, all the
right.
And then Steve said to me, Longo said to me, I'm going to convince John to go back out on tour, and we'll be his band. And I went, sounds great. So
now, what had happened to Mark Hitt in that?
Yeah, they had a falling out, and Rat Race was still trying to continue on without Steve, and there was some bad blood there or whatever. Yeah. He brought John. John was in town to do. Daltrey was doing this Daltrey Sings Townsend thing for Pete Townshend's 50th birthday, with Michael Kamen and orchestra, all these special guests, and Entwistle was a guest to play with that. And after he played there at Carnegie Hall with that thing, he came up to the China Club and jammed with us. And at the time, Richie Canada was on stage playing sax.
Wow.
Gerardo was playing congas up there. They were always there. But once Entwistle came up on stage, they went, "You got this handled. We're gonna take a powder and let you take over." And we basically jammed with Entwistle. Eddie Vedder came with him from the Carnegie Hall. Eddie Vedder, Linda Perry from Four Non Blondes, and Phil Palmer on guitar, and Pino Palladino was there. Like all these, Rabbit, the keyboard player, all came, and we just jammed Who stuff for like 2-3 hours straight.
Wow.
And that's on cassette, because the guy who used to do sound at the China Club, I forget his name now, really nice guy, he used to record shit like that. When there was something like that going on, he would record it. I've got cassettes of all three.
Wow.
Because they came back every night.
You need to transfer that stuff to
Yeah.
to digital, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And it's so funny because Steve Lukather and Jason Bonham were there that night as well, earlier. And I, whoever was come up to tell me, dudes are in the audience, go and get them to play. And I went over, and Lukather was a little had a few, and he goes, "No man, I don't play when I'm drinking. I either drink or I play." And I said, "But my friend's taking a cab from Astoria to come jam with you, and he's a huge Toto fan." And this was Steve Murphy now. And you got to do it. And so we got him up to play with us. And Jason Bonham was playing drums. And
Jesus.
Murphy was just singing. And I was playing piano, and we did Hold the Line and Rosanna and Red House. We did all this great stuff. And
wow.
It was just one night at the China Club. I mean,
every night was crazy at the China Club, but that's a magical night.
Yeah. Eddie Vedder up singing, and Kids Are All Right, and Happy Jack with us, and Simon Townsend was there, so there was a lot of really, really great nights. And so then Mitch Weissman now asks me, I've got this gig out in Laughlin, Jukebox Giants it's called, and it's at the Flamingo Hilton Casino, and they have a ballroom and a showroom, and they want us to back up all these different artists, and I want you to come out and do it.
What year is this?
1995 now.
Okay.
Joey Molland was on the show, Mitch Ryder, Spencer Davis, Sal Valentino from Beau Brummels, Merrily Rush, who sang Angel of the Morning. Mm-hmm. We had an Elvis guy. Tiny Tim was on it. Dennis Yost from Classics 4. All these different people, and we were just like the backup band and backed them up. And while I was out there doing that for 3 months, I get the phone call from Steve to say John Entwistle's putting a band together, and he wants you to be in the band. Wow!
Just from those jams at the China Club.
Yes. He said, that guy from New York, I worked well with him, so he remembered, and he asked for me.
Wow.
And then when Jolene didn't want to do the gig or, whatever, they asked me if I could sing the stuff too, and I went, I've been singing Who songs since I'm 13, so yes, I can,
Holy That's about stepping up to opportunity and not letting fear take you down. And yes, whatever the question, yes, I can do that.
I just feel like I manifested that whole thing, because I just remember sitting in my little studio in Ridgewood in the front room looking at a Guitar Player magazine, and it was John Entwistle was on the cover, and I could just remember going, how cool is this guy? How cool is this guy? And that was 1974, 75.
Oh my God. I want to talk about that for a minute. When you were a little kid, we've talked about this because I have this. You were at a concert that I was at later in Tucson a few months later, but Emerson, Lake and Palmer at Madison Square Garden, 1973, and Snuffy and his stray dog. You sent this to me. You saw Snuffy in 1973.
I remember, yeah.
So now, tell me the concerts, because I was going to the Fillmore. I think you said you weren't going to the Fillmore yet.
I went to the Fillmore somehow. I don't know why, but...
Well, we were young. We were very young.
My very first concert was Led Zeppelin at Madison Square Garden in 1970. That was my very first concert.
Oh my God.
I was up in the mezzanine, the blue section all the way up in the top, me and my two friends. And we were so young and green that, there was somebody smoking weed a few aisles up from us, a few rows up, and we could see, the pipe lighting up in the dark, and we could smell it, and we were like going, oh my God, we're all going to get arrested. The whole section is going to get arrested because we were so like wet behind the ears, And then the very next year, I saw Zeppelin again. That was my next concert. It was 1 year later, Zeppelin played, but this time I had second row seats in the orchestra.
Wow.
At a local record.
Those must have cost at least $12.
Yeah, it's 15. There was $7.50 each for a pair, and but we didn't even know. It was like a local record store where we always went in and hung out. And I had a sign in the window, 2 Led Zeppelin tickets for sale. And me and my girlfriend were huge Zeppelin fans. And so we scraped up all the money and we went and got them. And there was second row in the orchestra.
Jesus.
We were so close that as soon as they came out, everybody just rushed up to the stage. And we were basically like hanging off the front of the stage.
Jesus.
Zeppelin, and the whole stage collapsed. The front of the stage collapsed. There were so many kids on it.
What?
It's in the Hammer of the Gods book. The story is in the Hammer of the Gods book. And I just climbed up and sat on a road case, like in the wings, and just watched it from there at 15 years old.
Oh my. Okay, so Godfrey, we're going to get to how you continued on from Entwistle, but of all those concerts that you went to as a kid, how many of those guys did you get to play with later?
So weird.
Like almost all of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I became very close with Mark Volman of the Turtles. Yeah, very close. I mean, he would call me all year long going, I can't wait to get back out on the road and have some of your coffee in the morning on the bus. Like I would make him his coffee in the morning and we'd hang out and just have a quiet moment, the two of us. And we became very, very close. And I said, I saw you at Madison Square Garden with Flo and Eddie open for Alice Cooper on the $1 Billion Babies tour.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And now I'm in your band. I was asked to join the Turtles. All right, they came out. Everyone who came out on any of the tours, like Happy Together or Hippie Fest or any of those kind of tours that we did. The other one that you were talking about in 2001 was A Walk Down Abbey Road, and John Entwistle brought me out on that tour to sing his part of the. It was like John Entwistle, Ann Wilson, Todd Rundgren, Alan Parsons, and David Pack from Ambrosia, and a Beatles tribute where they do a couple of Beatle renditions and a couple of their own hit songs. And John needed me to sing the Who stuff with him. So he brought me out on the tour, and then
What year is that?
2001 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so you've already done Woodstock with him.
Yes, yeah. We toured as the John Entwistle Band from 1996 to when he passed away in 2002. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's 6 years right there that I worked with him.
Were you with? No, you weren't with him in Vegas because that was a Who tour when he died, right?
Right. So we were out on the second year of the Walk Down Abbey Road tour where John wasn't going to be able to come because he was going to be touring with the Who. So we got Jack Bruce on bass.
Okay, I was going to ask you, how did you play with Jack Bruce? It is.
Yeah. So that year it was Alan Parsons and Todd Rundgren stayed put, and we brought in Mark Farner, Jack Bruce, and Christopher Cross. And that was the second year. But the first year, Ann Wilson, Todd Rundgren, John Entwistle, Alan Parsons, David Pack.
But you ended up touring with Alan Parsons. You ended up being in his band.
After that second summer of doing that Walk Down Abbey Road tour, Alan asked me at the end of that summer, can you put a band together for me of American guys or guys from New York that are good players that so I don't have to keep flying my band over from Europe to do one-offs here and there. Can I have a band based in New York that you could put together for me? And I did. I put together a band with Steve Murphy and a guy named John Montagna, who you may know, on
Only
bass,
through you.
and Manny Focarazzo on keyboards. And we actually brought Joe Lynn Turner to sing with that band, and Alan didn't really like him, so he only did like 3 gigs with us. But we started out with Kip Winger as our singer.
Oh wow!
He did the first couple of weeks of shows that we did with Alan. But I put a band together for Alan, sight unseen. He just said put a band together for me.
And was he happy?
Oh yeah. I mean, even his his own brother, and a lot of his fans and friends said, this is the best band you've ever had.
Isn't that fabulous?
We were all lead singers. So he had a band of lead singers, and the stuff used to sound like a record live. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
And you went out with Todd also, didn't you?
Oh, Todd was on the Walk Down Abbey Road tours. So I
Okay.
went out with him a couple of summers. And then we did a couple of more one-offs with that Walk Down Abbey Road thing for in 2003 and 2004. And we had Todd and Alan Parsons, and we brought Denny Lane and Joey Molland
Denny
out.
Lane.
Yeah. So, um, God, I've worked with all my heroes. You know what I mean? And
You have.
guys that I grew up listening to, and Mark Farner, was my hero. Mark Farner was my hero. Dave Mason, I loved Dave Mason.
Okay, so tell us about Dave. I got to meet Dave thanks to
Yeah,
Alvino. Tell us
yeah. I'll
about
give
your
you back. Yeah.
experience with Dave.
So I met Dave. I had a gig at a place called the Downtown in Farmingdale. It was a Sam Ash owned club, and my Clapton band was playing.
We're going to talk
Opening,
about that too. Yeah.
opening for Dave Mason. So
Wow.
I got the gig opening for Dave Mason with my Clapton band, and a Hare Krishna devotee friend of mine brought another Hare Krishna devotee to the show, and they were on my guest list, and they happened to be one of them happened to be in the Get Back movie. One of the two Hare Krishna devotees that you see in the Get Back movie was one of them, and he was a Clapton fan, whatever. He knew George well, and he knew Clapton well, and whatever. And he wanted to bring him along to the show to see me do Clapton. And then they said, and we have a friend who's also a Hare Krishna a devotee who is managing Dave Mason right now, and he's got a record company, and he's managing him, and blah blah blah. It just happened to be a guy who had a lot of money that was helping Dave do something or whatever. He was trying to form a little production company or something. And you should meet him because maybe he'll sign you. This is what my Hare Krishna friends are telling me.
Right.
So anyway, I met him at the show, and a show is no place to be doing business, right? You got too much going on, so you just go, okay, let's exchange numbers or cards or whatever, and the guy said, come and visit me during the week. Come over during the week. I live in Edison Park, in New Jersey. Come over during the week, and we'll talk about some possibilities. And so I did. I went there during the week, and Dave Mason is sitting on his couch in his house. And he explains to me the whole thing, that he's backing, he's advancing the money for Dave to record this album, and he's managing him and all this stuff, and he can do the same for me if I can put together some material to record an album. And I went, yeah, that'd be great, and he goes, and in the meanwhile, if you want to make some money, Dave's other guitar player just left the band, and he's looking for a guy. And we sat on the couch, and we played Crossroads, and we played Only You Know and I Know. And
Wow.
he said, you're in.
What year was this?
This was 2003.
Wow.
2003 now. And then years later, he came on the Hippie Fest tours, because we used to do these tours with like 70s artists. Chuck Negron from Three Dog Night, Mark Farner, Rick Derringer, Leslie West.
This is before you did the Happy Together tours.
Yes. This was 2006 to 2010. Happy Together started in 2010. So all those people I got to work with as well, because we backed up everybody.
So you were playing with Chuck Negron for years on both tours. Wow.
Yeah. And it was one of those things where he said, hey, I got some gigs. I got one at Harrah's in Atlantic City, and I got one over here. And go, can you guys play my show with me, learn all my stuff, and play my show with me? So we wound up doing gigs with Chuck Negron. With Mark Lindsay from Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Wow.
We did shows with him, Mark Farner,
Wow.
stuff like that, Yeah. So it's kind of like a pinch me moment for my whole life.
Your whole life is a pinch me moment, Godfrey. But so well earned. I mean, you do the work. You put in the time. You're meticulous. You're fastidious and talented and fun. And I think one of your greatest assets, Godfrey, is that you're a nice guy. You're not a dick. You're not. You are always a nice guy. You're not an ego crazy person. You're not.
We don't get carried away once in a while, but if there's somebody there to slap you down, and you can go, yeah, all right, you're right, my bad, whatever, because that's what it is. Especially with these guys that you tour with on a tour bus all summer, they've been there, done that since 1965.
Right.
What are they going to remember about you? If they need somebody in a pinch to come fill in or something, they're going to go, oh, let's get that guy. He was easy to work with.
Exactly.
He was easy to work with, and he wasn't an idiot, and he didn't, wasn't a diva, pain in the ass, whatever it is. And then now, if you can actually play well and sing well, it's another feather in your cap, isn't it? Oh, he's a nice guy, and he plays well. That's what I was trying to tell my son. They like you because you're not an idiot. You're not a moron. And you can sing your ass off and play your ass off. You learn the stuff. Even Felix Cavalieri said to him, wow, that's the only person I ever heard play that song right.
Wow.
What
song was that?
Oh, it was maybe
it had to be a Rascals tune, I assume.
I've been lonely too long.
Sure.
It kind of has like a Motown feel to it. You know what I mean? Somehow or other, my son got the vibe going, and he went, "You're the first guy who's ever played that right."
Wow.
Yeah. And he was probably in his 20s at the time that happened.
Wow.
He's
So
41.
tell me what you and John Entwistle were, because John was like in kind of drug.
I lived at his place, that Corwood Estate. It's like a 55-room mansion. That's in the Cotswolds in Gloucestershire, and rolling hills of green around, and we would go over there and stay there for like a month and record, rehearse for a tour.
What years was this?
This was between 96 and 2002. Yeah, around those.
Right up until because the last tour was with. And what was your personal relationship with him like?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. You know how they say never meet your heroes?
Your heroes, sure.
Exact opposite. Exact opposite in this case.
Isn't that wonderful?
I had gotten into a bad habit when I was out in that gig in the casino for 3 months of falling asleep with the TV on. And so I couldn't go to sleep without a TV on. And when I was staying at John's house, he had a couple of different suites that, were, some of them had showers, some of them only had bathtubs with the shower thing. So I took this one that had an actual shower in it to stay in. And I said, like the next morning or whatever, he'd say, how'd you sleep? And I went, no, not too good, because I can't fall asleep unless I'm watching a TV, and a few minutes later, he comes wheeling a TV into my bedroom on a cart with wheels.
This is making me cry. This is so wonderful.
And he goes, and he knew I was a Star Trek fan. He goes, and in the green suite, I have the whole collection of Star Trek videos and Voyager and everything. Just go in there and grab a few of those every night. And he went and found a VCR and hooked it up to the thing for me. And you know what I mean? And so it's like we had such a great relationship that we always just genuinely looked forward to seeing each other when we were going out on tour.
Was that weird for him to be like The Who and then this other thing? Was it seamless for him?
You know what it was like for him? Because it was kind of like the same syndrome that the Beatles, like Lennon and McCartney, and then there's George, who got to do one song on each side of an album, and he wasn't really taken seriously, and Ringo, forget about it. He's just a drummer, whatever. It was kind of like that vibe with The Who, where Pete and Roger were always pairing up together, and it was Keith and John. Like in the early days, they had to share rooms, so it would be Pete and Roger in one room, and Keith Moon and John in another room.
Right.
So they became buddies and they became buddies. And then when Keith died, now it's just John and whoever, and he kind
Was
of
he friends with Rabbit?
Yeah, he was friends with everybody, but he
But he
kind
didn't
of
have his soul connection like he had.
felt left out. You know what I mean? Like when they would say, "Oh, we're doing a new album. Everybody submit your songs," and he would submit his songs, and they would kind of like, "Oh yeah, not make fun of him or whatever." So he kind of had this, it just a vibe.
An ache. He had an ache.
So the John Entwistle band wound up becoming his band, where now he gets to say how loud he wants to play, and he gets to say what songs he wants to play, and you know what I mean. And it's like Monday night out bowling with the boys, where it's like
Because he's not doing it the same way as the Who. They're not flying in jet. You're not flying in jets everywhere, right?
traveling on tour buses, and even this is great. Even in one place, when we would be stuck in the middle of nowhere or whatever, and we'd have another show that we have to drive like 2 days to go get to the next show, and we would tell John, we'll get you a flight, so you stay here at the hotel, we'll get you a flight, and you'll fly and meet us there in 2 days. So you'll stay here in the hotel for a couple of days, meet us there, and you don't have to be on the bus for 2 days, whatever. And one night we were leaving him, and so we're all going, "Bye, John, bye," and it was like a motel, so it's outdoor, like outside.
Yeah.
There's a balcony, and he's like standing at the door, and he's looking all sad, and he's saying goodbye, and then he goes, "Fuck it, I want to come with you guys." And we went, "Yeah, great," and so he hurried up and got ready, and we brought him on the bus with us. So he was one of those kind of guys.
That's so great. That is so great.
Yeah,
I just love hearing this.
Yeah. I mean, so we had a very good relationship. And
Godfrey, how did drugs not? I'm in recovery. How did drugs not happen to you with all of these people and all of this stuff?
I did most of my drugs when I was in high school and my early years of whatever. And got it out of my system, I guess. You know what I mean? And then I got sober maybe around 2003 or 4. I got sober and just stayed completely sober for like 14 years or whatever, and went back to a little bit of drinking after that. You know what I mean? And so I'll drink a beer or whatever.
So you're
like
not
that.
really an addict like the rest of us losers.
I could be. I was, and I could easily be. I have a very addictive personality. Everything I do, I get addicted to, and so I have to be careful, So whenever I was on a tour bus and somebody would go, "Come on, man, you can't just have one beer. Have one glass of wine," and I go, "No, I can't.
But what about now?
Now, I go through my phases, you know what I mean? And when I see it's starting to take me over, I back away from it a little bit and just do a juice fast cleanse or something kind of thing like that or whatever. And
will you stay sober for a while if you feel like you're getting?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there was one couple of summers ago. I just did the juice fast thing at the beginning of the summer and went out on tour and didn't drink the whole summer on tour, It just becomes more of a social thing.
Right.
And as long as, everyone's a grown man, you know what I mean? So I can't be going around telling my band, "Oh, you can't drink because if they start screwing up on stage, then I have to say something. You know what I mean? But
I assume you were never the type that was drinking on stage and carrying on.
not in my later years. No, early days,
yeah.
maybe here and there.
All bets were off, sure.
I'd have to get carried off the stage like whatever, And I remember seeing a great documentary about Arthur Kane, was the bass player from the New York Dolls. Remember this guy? And when we used to play Coventry, the guys who ran the place used to tell us all these freaking stories about the New York Dolls and stuff, and how they would come in so wasted, like a big old checker cab would pull up out front, doors would open, they'd all fall out, a bunch of beer cans would fall out, a bunch of beer cans rolling in the street, and Arthur Kane would get so wasted that the roadie would have to like hold him up and play the bass for him, like behind him, under his armpits, and play the bass.
Oh my God!
Like these were the kind of scenes that were going on. You know what I mean? And whether they're legends or myths or whatever.
That's hysterical.
Yeah. So it can wreck you. It can wreck you. Don't know
Did you ever have an experience, Godfrey, where you regretted that you had substances that night?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was. Like I said, there were a couple of times when I used to smoke angel dust, which wasn't a very delightful drug for most. And I had you'd never know how potent it was going to be or whatever, and walk on stage and some guy's smoking in the on the side of the stage and hands you the pipe, and you just take a hit and go, oh, that was good, let me have another one. And then all of a sudden you're like a petrified tree, you can't move. And then people have to come and take you back. Sorry, folks, the show's over.
But you didn't do that when it was high stakes. Come on.
That was back in the 70s.
I was going to say you didn't do that when you never did that shit when you were playing with Entwistle or anything.
No. He would. But,
Yeah.
That's only because if something was around, he would do it. But if it wasn't, he didn't.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it wasn't. So and he had a girlfriend who used to be Joe Walsh's girlfriend, and he had to part company with her because she was too crazy for him. Imagine, this is Joe Walsh in his prime, and she was too much for him. And so John wound up with her as his girlfriend because Joe Walsh played on the Too Late to Hero album, where they met. And now she was living with John at the Corwood Castle, and she was way out there. I mean, I loved her. I tried to get her head together a couple of times. As a matter of fact, after he died, I went over to see if I could get her on her feet or whatever, because she was just really.
Oh, wait
bad.
a minute now. I read that he died with a stripper, hooker, junkie. Was that her?
No.
Okay.
He died in bed in Vegas.
Right.
A couple of days before the Who was going to start their tour. Mm-hmm. He was doing an art show there because he used to do his own art, and then he'd have like a gallery showing in between tour dates. And so he had a couple of days. He went in early to do his art gallery showing, and him and his friend Cy were partying at the bar at the hotel where they were staying for a couple of nights. And one of the girls who was a stripper, they got to be friends and hang out and party together and whatever, and probably got some cocaine from somewhere or whatever. And the girl called Cy's room the next morning and said, he's not waking up. I can't get him to wake up. And he passed away in his sleep in her room, And there's a lot of guys who are like, oh man, he went out like a real rock star, man, with hookers and blow, and it's like, no, that's not cool. He was only 57 years old. Did
you know Louis Appel? Louis Appel died in Vegas in his sleep. I was supposed to meet him that night. Oh God, there was no hooker and there was no cocaine, but there was probably a hamburger though.
Well, so that's what Zach Starkey said to me, because you know what? When they did the autopsy on John and everything, they found that a couple of his major arteries were like 75% clogged, 90% clogged, and all this stuff. So Zach Starkey said to me, cocaine didn't kill John. Fish and chips killed John.
Wow.
That's what he said.
Wow.
So it has a lot to do with what you eat. And I remember, because I am a vegetarian, we'd be on tour and we'd be told not to eat this, don't smoke on the bus. I still smoke cigarettes. Don't smoke on the bus because then John won't smoke on the bus, and don't do this and don't do that. And every time he would order something, we'd say, why don't you just get the chicken instead of that, or whatever. And Irving Plaza, once they let us eat at this restaurant on the corner, and we're sitting there, and I ordered the veggie burger, and I said to John, why don't you get a veggie burger? just try it, just once. It's not going to kill you. And so he went, all right, I'll have the veggie burger. And he's eating it, and he's going, this is pretty good. And I'm going, you see? And he's going, don't let it go to your head. He said to me. So we all tried our best, but and even he would fight with her. He'd bring her out on the road, and then they'd have big fights and stuff like that. And he'd come up front on the bus and sit there and talk to me about things. And I go, maybe you guys should get rid of the drugs, because that's probably what's causing a lot of the confusion and everything, chaos. And he said to me, well, if she would quit, I would quit. And I just went, it's not the way to do it. You're supposed to. You can't put that on her. You know what I mean? You do it, and then maybe she'll follow your example. You know what I mean? So, whatever. But he was not the guy who would go looking for it. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay, well, that's
it would come to him,
and all the time, I'm sure.
We were at a House of Blues on Sunset, and Ace was there, and Joe Walsh was there, Keith Emerson was there, all these people there, and then there's this guy that's in John's ear the whole time. And I know this guy just looks like a shady character, one of those guys, and he's trying to like sell John coke or whatever. And I had him thrown out of the room, thrown out of the friggin' dressing room. Get this guy out of here. He's a bad influence. Get him out of here. Just trying to protect him a little bit,
Right.
Because I'm sure, like you said, it was always around, or it could be around in a heartbeat,
Absolutely.
if you want, just like
Well,
Jack.
you're very lucky that you didn't, with an addictive personality, that you didn't buy into all of that.
Yeah. Jack Bruce had a liver transplant, right, from so much drinking in his life. So when he came back out with us after the Cream did their reunion stuff at Hall, and they did a show at the Garden, he came back out on tour with us again after that with Hippie Fest, and he was just a frail shell of what he was. And we had strict orders that came from his wife to do not let him drink out on that tour. How are you going to not let Jack Bruce drink if he wants to drink? If there's mini bars in any of his hotel rooms, I want them emptied, and all this kind of stuff. So we actually brought a minder out to watch him. And how are you going to stop him from just calling down to the front desk and going, can you have someone run to the liquor store for me and grab me a couple of bottles of whatever, So you can't stop it unless the person wants to stop it. You know what I mean?
Oh, so that's what was going on. He was just doing what he wanted to do anyway.
And this is a guy with a fresh liver. He had a liver transplant and still didn't want to stop, and that eventually killed him.
Well, it's not wanting to stop. As an addict, I know it's no choice. Unless you get into recovery, there's just no choice.
I actually stopped because so many people were pleading with me to stop. They would say, you're not going to make it this time, because I would go on a binge every few years.
Did you ever do program?
No, I never went on a program. I just did it myself, and I'm into Eastern philosophy, so there's mantra meditation and things like that, where you chant a mantra, and it's a spiritual sound vibration.
If you are at home, I do not recommend you doing it the way Godfrey did it. Do it the way I do it.
Exactly.
Put a program. Don't listen to Godfrey. Don't do it that way. It's amazing that it's worked for you, because it usually doesn't go that way.
Well, it didn't stick, did it? You know what I mean? Because I went back to drinking, and the dangerous thing was because of the drug that I used to do was so crazy. I figured drinking is nothing.
Well, wait, I know about the angel dust. What was the drug you used to do that was so crazy? Angel dust. That is wacky. Someone was once laced a joint with that. I couldn't move. I was going to go to the hospital. That stuff was scary.
Right. So
How could you do that by choice?
that was big in our neighborhood. It went around our high school. A couple of girls I went to high school with, they had a house out in the Hamptons for the summer after high school, and I went and lived out there with them for a whole summer. And one of them, her sister, brought it from California because we didn't
But
even
how
have
could you function? How could you play on Angel Dust?
it. Used
You
to be able
could?
to-
You could
yeah,
play?
I could. Sometimes, not all the time. It
Wow.
all depended upon how potent it is or how much I had or whatever, I mean, there are friends of mine that still tell me stories about, yeah, you and Vinny was my other guitar player. You guys went out to get high and you came back in, and I was just like, hey, you guys sound great, and you were both like floated by going, thanks a lot, man. And then you went on stage and played like amazing stuff, Look, Hendrix was tripping most of the time, all these guys, whatever, but these are guys that are,
And
they're not
he didn't last long, did he?
27.
Didn't last very long.
So
Janice, 27. No, yeah.
So I feel blessed that I'm still here talking to you and telling you these stories, and that I can remember almost everything that ever happened to me.
That's astonishing. Okay, so while you're remembering, because we've been talking for a while, but I have a couple more things I want to know about. Did you ever meet Clapton?
One time.
When did you meet Clapton? Was it before or after Godfrey? Godfrey does Clapton.
Before, because that was a long time I wanted to do that band, and it took me almost 10 years to get it to happen. And it didn't start happening until I'd say 2000, the year 2000. So I've been doing it now for 25 years or whatever.
That's insane. So when did you meet him, and what was the circumstance?
So the circumstances were I was friends with Pat Thrall. Remember Pat Thrall?
I do. I loved Pat. Yeah.
So Pat was playing with Jack Bruce at the Bottom Line.
What year is this?
Oh God, now I can't remember. It had to be around 87, 87, because I met Pat Thrall through.
That's when I knew Pat. He used to come into the rock and roll and stuff.
So I met him through Laura
Bobby
McDonald.
Held and all of those people.
All them people, right. So Cindy Thrall, she actually sang in my Clapton band for a while, Cindy.
Wow.
And so Pat Thrall was playing with Jack Bruce at the Bottom Line, and they were doing 2 shows, and he said, you want to come down to the show? And I went, yeah, I would love to see it, and want to come to the early show or the late show? And I said, well, the late show is probably going to be the better one because you'll be warmed up. And so
now, was that before? That was right around when he got sober. After he got sober, right, Clapton?
Oh, Clapton.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was sober. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so I went down to the Bottom Line and waiting for the second show, right? The first show is still on or whatever, and I'm outside, and just as I'm about to open the door to the Bottom Line to go in, the door opens and Clapton walks right into me. And he had just played with Jack on stage. And I missed it. And he just walked right into me, and we were like face to face, and I just went, Eric.
Did he say anything?
Yeah, he said, good evening. Shook his hand a little bit, and he just went to the curb and got in a cab and left. And that was it. That was my meeting with with Eric, And then I worked with Jack, and I met Ginger a couple of times. So a lot of my heroes, but Eric only once, and Jimmy Page once.
And what was that?
That was at Entwistle's memorial. They had a memorial for Entwistle at St. Martin in the Fields in Trafalgar Square. And there was a gathering afterwards, and I'm standing there talking to a few people. Maybe Zach is there. And I keep looking at this guy because he's wearing this black velvet blazer with a really nice lapel with these embroidered flowers, really nice, jump out at you. And I'm just kept looking at the blazer going, oh, that's a great blazer. That's real rock and roll blazer. That's really cool. And Paige at the time had short black hair parted on the side.
Wow.
Totally different look for him. And he's standing there talking with Jim Capaldi and a couple of other people. And all of a sudden I'm listening and the voice is, hi, Jimmy Page. Hi, I'm Jimmy Page. Is that high voice like that? Like, it's like that really thin little voice, and I'm hearing this voice and I went, oh my God, that's Jimmy Page. And just as I realized, both of our conversations stopped, and he looks at me, and we're looking at each other, and he must have thought I was somebody, right?
Well, maybe he knew you from John's band.
Maybe he had seen me or something in a video or whatever of John's band. But either way, he just looked at me like he was kind of like doing the nod thing, like, hey man, thinking I might be somebody, right? I don't know who he is, but he might be somebody. He's got long gray hair, so he's got to be a musician. And I just walked over and I put my hand out and I go, I don't usually do anything like that. I don't usually do stuff like this, but I got to tell you, when we were growing up learning how to play guitar, you were the bee's knees. That's exactly what I said to him. And one of the things that after you say it, you go, really? Bee's knees? What are we, back in the 50s? And he just kind of went, oh. And then he went, oh, the bee's knees. Oh, cool, man. Like, oh, my God. Thank God he thinks it's cool.
Wow.
Isn't that cool? That was my only meeting with him. And what
about Roger and Pete?
Yeah, I met them a few times. Actually, when John passed away, I wrote an email to Pete, and he said, let's come to one of the shows when we come around and let's break the ice. Come backstage and let's break the ice. And I went, great. And so they were playing the Garden with Pino, Palladino on bass or whatever. And at one point, I'm backstage with a few friends of ours who were close with The Who. And back in the VIP room, green room, whatever you want to call it. And Pete's assistant comes over, Nicola, and she says, are you Godfrey Townsend? And I went, yes. And she went, oh, well, Pete has a lot of people on his guest list tonight, but he only wants to see you.
You just gave me goosebumps. Wow.
And I was with my ex-wife was my wife at the time, and we just looked at each other, and I was standing with a couple of friends who were like, whoa, look at you. And Nicholas then says, he's meeting with some people from JBL because they're sponsoring the tour, so he has to meet with them for a couple of minutes, and then he's going to take a quick shower, and then he wants to see you. So I'll come fetch you in about 15 minutes. And I went, great. And I go, can my wife come? Sure. So we're pretty excited, and we're thinking we're just going to go into this room full of people and whatever. 15 minutes later, she comes and gets us.
Oh, stop that you walk in there and he's alone. Oh, stop.
Him and Rachel Fuller. It's just the two of them. And they're like, come on in and sit down, at a love seat and a couple of chairs. And we're just the four of us sitting there talking.
And what are you talking about? Do you remember?
Well, of course, we were talking about John, passing away and everything like that. And, and he starts telling me, this one and that one, they were very mad at, Cy Langston or whatever, and I'm like, this is not the time for pointing fingers and blaming people about stuff. John was his own man himself or whatever. So it's not really the time for, and Pete says, yeah, you're right. You know what? Denial is the real killer here, because John was in denial of the fact that he was not healthy and he shouldn't have been doing that, whatever. I
heard Pete, who was sober, went out not that long ago and is back being sober.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because he had his own demons as well.
That's why I'm thinking it's odd that he was so judgmental of John when he had his own stuff going on.
Yeah,
Maybe he
he,
was sober then.
yeah, yeah, and mad as hell about it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
And um, so we wrote to each other a few times afterwards, back and forth about it or whatever.
Wow.
My ex was sitting there, and she said she was talking a bit with Rachel, but she was just watching me and Pete interacting. And he was asking me, so who are you playing with now? What are you doing now? Or whatever. And I was telling him I'm out with Alan Parsons and all this stuff. And she said, and Pete was just kind of like hanging back, just looking at you like a proud big brother would.
Aw.
You know what I mean? So these are the things in life that mean a lot to me. That these were my heroes, and now I'm sitting here with them, and we're like buddies
Wow.
or something. You know what I mean? So
And
yeah.
especially you're playing his parts, and so what was it like when you met when you were with Roger? What was that like?
Roger was a bit standoffish, but he was still okay. I mean, because I'd be at John's house, and he'd call, and I'd answer the phone.
Oh.
And so, hey, blah blah blah, and start talking to him about something, and talking to him about the Walk Down Abbey Road tours and all this stuff that we were doing, which is like gathering up, a few headliner acts and having them all do a few of their own songs and a few Beatle covers and whatever. And he seemed like he was into it. He seemed like he was into it. But there were times when we'd be backstage at a Who show at the Garden, and I'd be standing there talking to Rabbit with Debbie, and all of a sudden Rex King, who was their tour manager, would come walking down the hall and go, "All right, we got to clear the hall, clear the hall. Roger's coming through. Roger's coming through. Everybody, clear the hall." And Rabbit would just look at us and go, "Don't go anywhere. Just stand right there." You know what I mean? So, um, and
Rabbit goes back with Snuffy about 60 years.
really, because
50 years, yeah.
he's from Texas, isn't he?
Oh
Rabbit?
yeah, they're
Yeah, yeah.
and
Man.
Free, and they did a bunch of stuff together, but yeah.
So even with Jack Bruce, at one point he said to me, I'd love to have a nice acoustic guitar that I can sit on my couch and write songs with." And I had a really good connection with Gibson going at the time, so I said, "I'll get you one. I'll get you one." And see that guitar? You'll see a picture of him sitting on his couch with one of those hanging on his wall behind him. Um, I'll send you the picture later on. And he said, "Yeah, you can get it for me." And I went, "Yeah." So when I went over for John's memorial, I brought it, and then we went out to Jack's house, and I gave it to him.
Oh.
And he gave me a bass for my son, who plays bass. He gave me one of his basses that I have upstairs, hanging in my foyer up there or whatever, and signed it to my son. And we were sitting down at his piano in his house, having some wine and cheese and stuff before we went out to dinner together. And I'm sitting at the piano playing, trying to play one of his songs, and he comes over and sits on the bench next to me, and he's going, "No, no, no, watch." And he shows me how to play it. And I go, "Wow, wow." And I start playing it, and and then I said, "What about this one? What about that one?" And I start pulling all these songs out, and he's playing them for me and singing them. And then we went out to dinner afterwards, and after dinner, he was dropping us off at the train. We were going back to Victoria Station or whatever on train, and he pulls me aside before we leave, before he pays and we leave, and he goes, "Thanks a lot for bringing back all those great memories tonight. I haven't played those songs in so many years, and it was so great to, you know what I mean? It's like these are the moments that you just go, wow."
Godfrey, you have got, I mean, I saw your documentary. It's very good. You have got to write a book. You have to write a book.
You see, when I put the stories on Facebook, every once in a while I put them on Facebook, and everybody always comments, "You should write a book. We would buy it totally." And I copy and paste all those stories and I stick them in a folder on my desktop. So I've got all, because, to do something, you can't just sit down and go, all right, I'm going to write a book. Now, where do I start? No, you have to, as you remember these things, you have to stick them up.
I wrote a book, so I know how that goes.
Yeah.
But you also have things like this, where you've gone through your life and you've talked about all these key moments, and you play it back and you go, okay, I did it in this order, because this is a pretty interesting order we've gone through, because it's kind of linear, sort of linear. So I have two more things to ask you about.
Yeah.
This story about Jack Bruce's Cream was everything. So this is crazy to hear this story of you and Jack sitting at the piano. Wow.
I've got an even better one with Jack. But
what?
When we first started the Walk Down Abbey Road tour, we went around the United States, and my friend was doing a show in Chicago called Moving Out, a Billy Joel thing.
Right, of course.
Choreographed by Twyla Tharp, and he was playing.
Wasn't Tommy Burns
Tommy Burns, Greg Smith, all these guys that we know were all in the band and whatever. So we went out to a bar after the show. Jack was with us, and the last three people left in the bar was me, Jack, and Tommy Burns.
Of course, it was Tommy.
And we were all pretty pie-eyed or whatever. And Tommy was walking back to his hotel, which was right there. Me and Jack got in a cab together, and we didn't even remember what hotel we were in or where to go. So we were sitting in the back of the cab for a while, and the guy is going, "Where do you guys want to go?" And it's just the two of us, and we're both pretty wasted. And Jack just says to me, "Man, I love that we're playing together. I love playing with you. It's freaking awesome. Where have you been? Where have you been? Why didn't you get in touch with me sooner?" And I'm as drunk as I was thinking, God, why don't I have a recorder right now to get this on tape, because no one's ever going to believe this.
Wow.
Where have you been all my life? Kind of.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
So,
okay, so now, go ahead.
So here's what's good about it, okay, is that it wasn't Eric Clapton or Jimmy Page or Jeff Beck or somebody like that, where now I'm competing.
Did you get to meet Jeff Beck?
Yes. I got some great stories with him. But now I would be competing. I'd have to lay back a little bit, because I don't want to step on Eric Clapton's toes and make him think I'm trying to show him up, or if that would ever be possible, anything like that. So I'd have to hang back and be, kind of cool. But I got to work with John Entwistle, and I got to be Roger Daltrey and Pete Townshend to his John Entwistle.
Yes.
I got to work with Jack Bruce and be Eric Clapton to his Jack Bruce. And the tour manager one time, I walked off stage with Jack after just playing Sunshine of Your Love and White Room and all these songs, and he put his arm around me and he goes, "Don't you know better than to show up the headliner?" And I went, "Look, if I'm on stage with Jack Bruce and we're doing Cream, I'm going to give it everything. I'm not going to lay back, because Cream didn't lay back. They gave it everything." Mm-hmm. And to play that music right, you got to do that. And Jack loved playing with me and Steve Murphy.
Oh my God! Oh my God! This is unbelievable. All right, now, okay, so Beck was my idol.
All right,
so
questions.
How? Tell me about meeting Jeff Beck, and what was? Did you play with Jeff? What?
Didn't. No. The same guy who did all of our tours, the Walk Down Abbey Road, Hippie Fest, Happy Together, whatever, he also did the B.B. King Blues Festival tours. And Jeff was on one of those.
And so, what year is this?
Oh, God, this had to be now 2003 or 4.
Okay, around the same time, okay.
We were playing with Alan Parsons. And I'll tell you why I remember. We were already playing with Alan Parsons, and so I said to the to my tour manager, who's also the producer of the tour, and he produced these tours, said, "Can I come see Jeff at Jones Beach? Can I come to the show at Jones Beach and meet Jeff?" "Yeah, sure." And so he put me on the guest list, and I'm sitting in like the second or third row watching Jeff, and sitting behind me is Dennis Dunaway, bass player from Alice Cooper, is sitting behind me, and I had met him at some benefit that I played with him a while back, and we became friends. And then I had a guy who was a connection at Jones Beach that would get me backstage, even though I already had some kind of backstage thing going. He would just let me come right in, walk right up the side of the stage and go right in the back. And I said, I'm going to go backstage after Jeff is over. And he goes, can I come? Dennis Dunaway is asking me, can I come with you? And I said, yeah. And we go over, and I go to the guy, Dave, I think his name was. I went, hey, can he come with me? This is Dennis Dunaway, bass player for Alice Cooper. And he went, yeah, sure, go ahead. And we went back to meet Jeff. So now Jeff is coming out, and he's got some fans, and somebody's giving him a hot rod book and a couple of other things because he's so into all that stuff. And my manager guy is getting ready to introduce me, and he's going, now don't say anything stupid, right? And I went, yeah, I know, don't say anything stupid, won't. So I go up to meet him, we shake hands, and then we're gonna get ready to take a picture. And I'm talking to him, and he goes, who you playing with now? He said to me, and I went, Alan Parsons Project. And he does the thing from Austin Powers where Dr. Evil goes, we're going to call it the Alan Parsons Project. And so I got a picture with Jeff, and he's doing this because he's saying to me, oh, the Alan Parsons Project is what he says to me. And Dennis Dunaway is in the picture as well. I'll send you all these pictures. You'll get a kick out of them. And then the next time I meet him, we're playing a festival in Germany with Parsons. And the promoter, we get there a day early, and the promoter goes, hey, do you want to go see Jeff Beck tonight is playing at the place where you're playing tomorrow night? Do you want to go to the show? Yes, we do. So we go to the show. So we're going backstage. It's an outdoor gig, and it's like Jeff is walking in the grass over to this picnic table or area where they were hanging out. And he's looking at me, and he's just going like this, I know you from somewhere. I know you from somewhere. And we got to hang out with him again. And there was a girl with us who was a very, very pretty Asian girl, and she was there. It was like a beer festival, and so she was drinking beer all day. So she was a little wasted, and she was a huge fan of Jeff. So she comes over, and she just throws herself around Jeff and won't let go of him. And I think he had just gotten married. He was just married. He was like, does she belong to anyone? Can you come collect her, please? You know. And then when they went to leave, they got in a van and a big sliding door and these bench seats in there, and she dove into before they could take off and close the door. She just dove in on top of all of them, and we had to come collect her again out of there. So that was pretty funny. Yeah. I lost your audio.
I'm sorry, I accidentally hit the thing. All right, so now this is unbelievable. You didn't hear all my oohing and eyeing. Okay, so now, before we go, oh my God, we could talk all night long. So before we go, how do you start the Godfrey is Clapton? And you've had such longevity with it, and all those years at BB King's, and
yeah. So we I just wanted to put this Clapton band together. So I was just trying to hand pick certain musicians that I had met along the way with all the different things that I did. And, of course the lineup is now totally different, but we started small, and we played BB King's. We got a gig. We got a couple of gigs locally, like the Chance up in Poughkeepsie, rock club or whatever. Maybe 100 people came or whatever. And so we started slowly like that. But then we got into BB King's, and it became like a birthday thing, So we did it every year for almost 20 years.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. When they closed down, I mean, at the end it was getting kind of wild because they were really having to pay the rent there, and so they were having these hip hop all night raves and stuff like that, like on a Saturday night or a Friday night when I'm doing my Clapton show. So I would be doing my Clapton show, and 10 o'clock it'd be like, okay, lights on, throw everybody out, get everybody out, and get in the next thing, And I didn't like that my audience was being treated like that. You know what I mean? So then I started doing it at the Space at Westbury out in Long Island. So we did it there for two years, and now we've been doing it at a place called the Bolton Center in Bayshore, Long Island, and still get all the crowds. We sell out the shows and stuff like that. So
wild. And so you have no idea what Clapton thinks of that.
Don't know. I mean, I don't know. People always ask me, you think Eric would ever show up? And I went, I don't know. It doesn't sound like the kind of thing he would do. And even when we were at BB King's, I think Ron Delziner had his office across the street from there, from what I heard or whatever. And, maybe he'll tell him and he'll show up one time or something. Or maybe he did show up and nobody knew or whatever. I don't know. But I think he would like it because we're not doing one of those kind of like dress up like Eric Clapton, and grow a beard and put on the glasses and all that stuff and do all the popular songs. Like we love the era like around Derek and the Dominoes around that time, Delaney and Bonnie stuff, and all around that era, and of course the Cream stuff and Blind Faith and all that stuff. So we do that stuff, and we play it with a lot of conviction. You know what I mean? So it's more of like if you saw Clapton play live back then.
I've seen whole sets on YouTube. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we do a 2-hour show sometimes or whatever. 20 songs with lots of stories in between.
Fantastic.
I bring all the guitars, all the different guitars that he used for everything. Put a little more detail into, a little more effort into the details like that, the instruments.
How fun. All right, so the Happy Together tour, a whole different part of your life and a whole different skill set with being the MD for all of those different acts. I would imagine sometimes it could be a little bit of a nightmare. Is it ever a little bit of a nightmare?
Yes.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yes, there's a lot of fires to put out sometimes, and my producer of the tour will just look at me and go, "You guys are professionals, make it work," So we have to slap it together with duct tape and bubble gum, whatever, and make it work. And
I would imagine there are personalities. Like, do people ever, like, I know the Cowsills. I love the Cowsills. They're friends. And they open the show and they have no ego about it. And
on a stage,
and honestly, nobody follows them. They're the best. They're the best. They're incredible.
I love seeing their shows when they play with their full band and do a whole show, and they do so many covers of great tunes, killer versions of everything. Susan does a killer version of To Sir With Love.
Yes, she does. It's unbelievable.
Every time I hear it, I can't stop crying. It's just so good, and they do so many great covers.
And Bob can sound like anybody. Bob sounds like anybody when he's singing them.
They do that great Elton John song, and they do some Crosby, Stills and Nash stuff. Like, it's unbelievable. And they've been on the tour now for over 10 years, and they're like family. They're like family.
But I'm sure there are other people who come and go. And, quite honestly, a couple of the acts that I've seen over the years didn't sound like themselves anymore. Like, they need to hang it up already.
You get to see all the different versions of what can happen. Right?
You get to see all the versions of what can happen.
Okay, so this guy had a short career, and
now you know why.
He's really happy and grateful to still be out here doing it and just be able to run out on stage, sing his 2 or 3 hit songs, get paid and go home. He's happy about it. And then there's other people that are like bitter about things, and they're like, I got screwed and this and that, and they're like not happy. And you have to kind of like massage everybody differently, and just go, okay, and the Happy Together tour is more about the team effort. Like, it's not about any one act. It's all about.
And do people I mean, I'm sure there are personality stuff that goes on, but for the most part, because you're touring for the whole summer, do people get along and have fun? And
yes. There's one in every crowd kind of a thing.
Yeah.
One guy or girl or whatever that has to make problems for other people. It's just the way they live their lives, but for the most,
Mitch is here.
It's a family.
Did you hear me?
Mitch Weissman?
Yeah, he just came on. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
For the most part, it's like a family.
mhm.
Mitch was out there a whole summer with us doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I know about the one guy. I have a lot of friends who have done the Ringo All Star thing,
Okay.
and they
Yeah.
all tell the tale. Every year there's like one, or I don't know if there is lately. I think the last few years it's been pretty harmonious, but I
Yeah.
know over the years there's always been one, or usually been one. So how do you, as the MD, what do you do with that? Do you massage it? What do you do?
Look, we just do our job. You know what I mean? It's like we're getting paid to back up these artists.
Hmm.
We enjoy it more. They make more of a connection with us, and some of them don't. It's you know what I mean? They don't. Doesn't matter what we're doing, what's happening. It's their show. They're out there. They're singing their songs, and then they kind of just go off. And they're nice enough people that you got to sit backstage and eat dinner together and all kinds of stuff like that constantly. It's an everyday thing. Um, some of them hang on the bus with us. Volman used to like to just sit on the bus with us. He didn't even want to go to his hotel room. He had a hotel room, but he wanted to hang with us. You know, so he was one of the gang.
How about Howard? Howard loves to talk. Didn't Howard
Howard,
hang?
Howard was like a vampire. You know what I mean? He would stay up all night by himself.
Wow.
Maybe he would get somebody to stay up with him or whatever, and he would just stay up all night watching
He
TV and
still
whatever.
does.
And then in the morning, we'd get him to a hotel, and he'd get off the bus and go to his hotel and black out the curtains, sleep like a vampire all day long, and then they'd come get him for the show. And they were the last act, so he didn't have to come get him until like 9:30. For the last 20 minutes. And he would just show up and do his part. And then stay up all night, whatever. But for the most
Hysterical.
part, he was great to be on a bus with. He was happy.
I love Howard.
Yeah, yeah. He's like the Grouch, like Oscar the Grouch, right? And Mark was the other guy. You know what I mean? The guy who's always wants to say something funny and get a laugh. So they made a good team.
Although I know Howard as being hysterically funny. I mean, I've had 2 hour, 3 hour phone calls with him that I never stop laughing. He's very funny.
Yeah.
He's very funny.
He I turned him on to an artist named Steven Wilson. You know Steven Wilson?
I don't.
Amazing prog rock kind of artist. And my oldest son turned me on to him years ago. And the music is so amazing. Like it's like, wow, it sounds like Genesis or King Crimson or whatever. But a lot of the subject matter, the lyrics and stories and whatever around are very sad or very kind of like morbidly morbid. What can I say? And I was going through a breakup with my girlfriend at the time, and I'm turning Howard on to this stuff, and I'm telling him what is he singing, and I'm telling him what the song is about and everything. And Howard says to me, "This is what you're listening to all day long? No wonder you're so friggin' depressed. You're gonna kill yourself, or whatever." So yeah, it's hysterical.
So, all right, last thing, the Yardbirds. How did that? Okay, I love Kenny Aronson so much.
Yeah.
Oh God,
So
Kenny.
we ran into each other in the clubs over the years so many times, and he was one of my heroes and everything. You know what I mean? We used to play all that stuff from those Derringer albums, with Rick and Pete Johnson and Vinny Appice on drums. We did all that stuff in the bars with our bands. So. When I would run into him in the city and we would jam, I'd be like, wow, freaking Kenny Aronson, man. And he liked the way I played, and he always said, yeah, it'd be great if we could do something together someday, man. It'd be great, Next thing I know, Margot Lewis? Margot Lewis. So she had a booking agency called TCI, right?
I do know her. Yeah.
She was in a band with Genya Ravan. They had a band called Goldie and the Gingerbreads.
I'm thinking of the wrong Margot Lewis, because the one I'm thinking of was a comedian. That's not right. Okay.
No, no. This woman was a keyboard player
I
in
don't know her.
an all-girl band back in the '60s called Goldie and the Gingerbreads, and then they later on became. Some of the members went and formed a band called Isis. That was an all-girl band. They used to play at Coventry when we played there, and then Genya Ravan had her own career. Maybe 10 Wheel Drive was the name of the band or something, but whatever. So Margot Lewis was a booking agent, and when I put a band together with Jack Bruce's son and Ginger Baker's son called Sons of Cream, we booked it through them. So she came to see me at the Iridium with them, so she knew what I could do guitar-wise and whatever. And a lot of the artists that were on the Happy Together tour went through that agency, that same agency. The Cowsills, the Association, all these bands, which is how I got a gig playing with the Association when their guy was in the hospital. I learned their whole show and I did a short tour with them. Took his place in that band. So she knew what I can do. She knew I was responsible. She knew that I could play guitar. And at some point, Jim McCarty, who's the original drummer from the Yardbirds, wanted to replace the guitar player that they had.
And it's a damn good thing they did, because he was personality minus.
So that's what I'm told.
Yes.
Of course, I can't say that on the air. But anyway,
I can.
Jim just kept telling Margot, can we get another guitar? Can we get a new guitar player? Can we get it? And she said to me, every time he would say that to me, I'd hear your name in my head and see your face in my mind's eye.
Wow.
And so, of course, she calls me while I'm out on Happy Together tour. And we're out on the West Coast. I'm just having my coffee. It's 10 o'clock for her. It's 7 o'clock for me. I'm having my coffee. And she calls me up and says, hey, how would you like to be in the Yardbirds? And I just lost my mother and my dog. Right at the beginning of that summer. My mom passed away before the tour. My dog passed away while I was on the tour. Had to have an operation and didn't come out of the anesthesia. Lost my mother and my dog, and I was pretty much just feeling sorry for myself that summer on the tour, and I said, I'm just going to take a year to do nothing and just take inventory on my life and just go, okay, just do nothing, right? And then I get this phone call. Do you want to be in the Yardbirds?
So much for that. Best laid plans.
So I said to her, can you give me a week? Can you give me a few days? Because I just have this thing going on. I'm not in my right head space or whatever. And she says, sure. Fine. So then during the day, I'm going around and I'm telling Mark Volman and Howard, yeah, I got a call this morning from Margot Lewis asking me if I wanted to be in the Yardbirds. And they're all going, wow, that's great, man. That's your dream gig. You know all that stuff. Blah. So everybody's telling me how this is my dream gig. And I go, I guess it is. I guess they're right. It is. I mean, I learned how to play guitar growing up listening to those three main guys that they had. So, I mean, I don't know a lot of the Yardbirds material, but I know how to play like those guys because I followed their career after, so I can apply that knowledge to. So who played on this song? Oh, Jeff Beck played on this song. Okay, so I'm going to use my Jeff Beck playing chops to play like Jeff Beck on this song. Page playing on this one, Clapton playing on this one, and just play them like those guys. And so
this is crazy. This is crazy.
I know.
You have emulated all of your heroes and added your spin to all of it.
Yeah, isn't it wild?
With every one of them. It's just, your life is,
it's like
you are a rock and roll dream. Your life is a rock and roll fucking dream.
Yeah.
It just is.
Very, very grateful, very appreciative for it. Every time I get in a hissy fit mood, I just go, look at your life, dude.
Okay, Godfrey, before we go, we've been talking for 2 hours.
Really?
And we could easily talk for two more. I need you to play something, and I'm thinking, I mean, there's a million things I could ask you to play, but I'm thinking you should play something Clapton, something from Blind Faith, or something from Derek and I don't know. Play some or Cream, or play some. Can you play something vintage Clapton?
If you want to hear Clapton, I can do Clapton for you.
No, you can play whatever you want. It was just a thought because you have this whole show around Clapton.
I was going to play a Jeff Beck tune for you.
Oh, Beck is my favorite. Please play Beck. Please play Beck.
The backing track, all right? And this is a replica of the guitar that he used to record this next track. Okay, so let me just make sure and tell me if you need anything louder or lower or whatever.
Let me do a few warm up things so I can make sure the sound is okay. Okay, I'm getting out of here and I'm turning my sound off.
Let me know if it's loud enough.
It sounds great. can't even. I will never be able to thank you enough for playing that.
Wow, thanks. Yeah,
That was magnificent. Snuffy and I were at one of Jeff's very last shows, and he was in incredible form and having the best time. And you just brought back all of that. I was crying while you were playing. That was so perfect. Thank you so much for playing that.
thank you for having me and having me do that. So let me do it. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Godfrey, I've done a lot of shows. I've done a lot of shows. I have never enjoyed one more, that's for sure. This is literally a rock and roll wet dream. That's what it is. It's you. Your life is a rock and roll wet dream, and you're just delightful, fabulous.
Thank you.
I've so enjoyed every second of this.
Yeah.
Well,
Me
you're going to
too.
have to let us know when the Yardbirds are out here because
Oh
we'll be
yeah.
there.
They want us everywhere, but for some reason we can't manage to get around to any of these places because, especially to the West Coast,
You're not coming to the West Coast?
we're trying. We're trying to. It costs money to move this band around. Jim lives in France. John, who's our singer, lives in Germany.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to make all that happen. We need one good anchor gig to get them over here, and then we can book something around that. You know what I mean? But so.
Well,
You
I
know.
sure hope it happens. And
It
just,
would be great. It'd be great. If we get out to the West Coast, because they'd love us out there. I think. Yeah.
oh, yeah, I've gone to see Kenny with them a few times prior to your joining with that other curmudgeonly guy. But,
Yeah.
but Godfrey, thank you so, so much. And,
Sure.
well, we'll have to get together for lunch or something when you're over here. We'll figure out a way.
Yeah. We'll be out there. I'll send you the schedule for the Happy
Okay,
Together.
good. Oh, good.
Right.
We'll come see Happy Together and we'll come hang out.
So,
Thank you so much.